Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Edmonton. My name is Gordon Ritchie. My pronouns are he, him. Lynn Turvey and I will be your service leaders this morning. Our minister, Reverend Rosemary, is off in Calgary at a conference this morning. I would like to offer a special welcome to those who are visiting with us for the first time. Please join us for coffee and fellowship following the service. And I'd like to welcome all those who are with us online. Thank you for joining us. It is good to be together. The title of our service this morning is Making Sense of a Career in Service and Advocacy. We welcome this morning our guest speaker, Guy Milner. During a lifetime of dedicated service, Guy worked to advocate for the acceptance and care of people whom others ignored and actively shamed. He says, from a quote from an article that was written about Guy not too long ago, "The bigotry of closed-mindedness of many still baffles me and indeed increasingly frightens me. It still doesn't seem safe, but we are being called to take on this challenge lovingly and with courage and kindness." I'll be introducing Guy a little bit later on in the service. It is time for announcements, and I better get Jan McMillan up here first. Jan, here we go.
Yes, he had to call me up first because he's beneficiary of the announcement. Okay, so we have, in just 2 weeks, a lovely concert here, gathering here, with Chalice singing all the original compositions of Gordon, and he will be playing his Celtic harp, and I have tickets. And so it's Mother's Day weekend, so it's a good time to bring mothers or daughters or sons to this concert. It'll be lovely, and see me after the service for tickets.
Hi, I'm Andrew Mills, and I'm doing the garage sale. So we're going to talk about the garage sale for a second. Couple things. After the service today, we could appreciate people giving us a hand because we've got these signs to bring down from upstairs. And there's probably about 30 of these, so many hands will make short work. They have to come from the mezzanine up there, and they're going to go into the vestry down here. So anybody can give us a hand after the service, that would be wonderful. Thank you for that. We also have the most amazing treasures that are showing up. This little art object is a tea infuser. And you put your tea in there, and when you're done, you put it in here. And this art object was originally sold for $150. But we could make you a deal. We can make you a fantastic deal on this. You will not begin to imagine the savings we can make for you on such a beautiful object as this. And we have many others. We're also looking for your objects. We're also looking for your materials. So today, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're still accepting your donations for the garage sale. So if you have some things, please bring them in right away. The sale starts on Thursday. So once the sale starts on Thursday, please don't bring any more stuff. But come on in and help us by buying the lovely treasures that you see, beautiful things that are available on sale. And we will see you at the garage sale. And hopefully folks can stay after church and help us bring down these signs. Thank you all very much, and thanks for your support of the garage sale.
I'd like to invite Lynn and Susan up for announcements as well.
Good morning, everybody. Lynn Turvey, she, her. I'm just putting out some reminders on behalf of Reverend Rosemary. One thing is a reminder about UU's on Tap this Wednesday at 6 p.m. at 3 Vikings on 124th Street. It's really a time for food and conversation with your fellow UUs. I've been a couple of times and it's really enjoyable, so hope you can join the crew over there this Wednesday. Another reminder from Reverend Rosemary, If you don't already have your new name tag, you can find them over there on the table. Please go through their alphabetical order and find your lanyard that one of your choosing. And if you want to decorate your name tag in any manner, there are some stickers there as well. So when you're done, you're invited to put them in the new cupboard. Newly built, beautiful wood cabinet hanging on the wall. It was built by Lynn Markham, who is one of our members. So a couple of reminders. Thank you.
I'm Susan Rattan, just reminding you that next Sunday after the service is our annual general meeting, and it will happen very shortly after the end of the church service. We'll let people go get coffee and so on. And we will be approving a budget and approving new board members and basically an update on what's going on in the church. And after the meeting, you get to shop, not before the meeting.
Oh, everything's half price after the service. Next week, thank you all for your announcements. I have a little reminder for everyone too, please. Unitarian Church of Edmonton building is a scent-free environment. Please be aware of this when you're coming into the building at any time. We do have friends and members who have reactions to scent and sometimes quite severe reactions to fragrance. So please be aware of that when you're coming into the church and building at any time. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant as Unitarian Universalists, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. So whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, however you identify, you are welcome here. And let us take a moment to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, the ancestral territory of Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, and Métis people. We thank the Indigenous knowledge keepers of this area for teaching their people how to live sustainably on the land, in harmony with it and respect for all creation. We acknowledge that during colonial rule, this opportunity was taken away from Indigenous people, and now they call out to us all to respond in acts of reconciliation, to listen to their voice of knowledge, how to live not only in harmony and respect with the earth, but also to live in harmony and respect with one another. And as we prepare for the service, I would ask that you make sure that any electronic device that you have with you this morning is either turned off or silenced. We begin our time together with a prelude offered by Karen Mills. Thank you, Karen. I was always told that a day without Mozart is like a day without sunshine. I would say the same about Gershwin. I would like to invite Lynn and Ruth up as we light our chalice this morning.
I'm really pleased that Ruth is here in the congregation this morning to light the chalice, because quite often she's up there in the rafters doing her producer thing, or she's at home doing her techie thing on Zoom. So it's really nice to have her in the congregation lighting the chalice. This is The Heart of the Chalice by Bear W. Qolezcua. As we light the chalice, may our souls become its hearth. We join our hearts to the one great flame of bright compassion, beloved community, and fervent justice. May we become lanterns to the world, lighting the way for all. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Ruth. Our opening hymn is number 347. The music, for those who would like to follow, should I bring you a hymn book? I'll bring some hymn books. I like to follow along in the music sometimes. Thank you, Ruth. For those of you who are online, the text should be coming up on your screen. For those of you here in the sanctuary, the text will be coming up on the screen behind me. It's Gather the Spirit, number 347. I invite you to rise as you're willing and able as we sing number 347, Gather the Spirit. Well, I would like to introduce our guest speaker to you. Guy Milner was graduated from the University of Alberta with a Bachelor of Science in 1969. He is at his best when he is contributing to human development as a UN volunteer in Tanzania, as a program specialist with Canada's Vietnamese refugee movement, where he met Michael Fair, and as an MSM at the Southern Alberta Clinic in Calgary, where he worked for 17 years. He was on the board of the first AIDS network in Edmonton and chaired their education committee. He focused on giving clients good health protection information that no government was willing to do. Drawing from both his work and volunteer experiences, Guy pays close attention to people who are low income, new immigrants, or street involved. He has worked with Eric Stoley at SAGE, assisting at-risk seniors. He is also an active Ella member, that being Edmonton Longtime Learners Association, and is currently a volunteer host for their series examining Islam and sexual diversity. Guy and his husband Robert Roger, that's my husband Robert. Okay, that was awkward. Guy and his husband Roger, my husband being Robert, has established a legacy gift at Lorelei University. I think that's really quite extraordinary. What a legacy. A legacy gift at Lorelei University to assist queer students as they complete their MSW studies. Now, that is just the tip of the iceberg of the work that Guy has done. I could go on for quite some time. But let's hear from Guy. Please welcome Guy Milner.
Well, good morning. Thank you for breaking the ice. I don't have to feel so nervous. I'll just kind of clutch my yellow pieces of paper. Anyway, in my talk, I'm going to speak in two segments. And in the first segment, I'm going to try to paint a picture of what life was like 40 years ago. And given the news that we all kind of saw this morning, maybe it'd be nice to go back 40 years for a short period of time. And then in my second segment, I'm going to speak about some examples of stuff that happened over those 17 years. So, 40 years ago, 1988, it was a seminal moment for me, so I kind of deliberately did that. In 1988, Calgary had the Winter Olympics in February '88. It was the last year of Ronald Reagan's presidency. And why I'm singling that lovely man out is that he was the president who absolutely refused to utter the word AIDS during his presidency. And they begged and begged and begged him, and he just said no. Plus, he didn't give the CDC any money to do the research for understanding. Anyway, I'll skip Ronald Reagan. Then in Alberta, it was Don Getty's time as premier. And the only thing I want to reference around Dear Don Getty is that the Alberta government at the time had instructed the Alberta Human Rights Commission to never take a case from a LGBTQ person around discrimination. They were told not to receive them and not to do anything about them. And in the next 10 years, the Alberta government spent an awful lot of money and energy fighting the queer community in Alberta. And they subsequently lost. But anyway, those pictures, so that was kind of the political environment that we were living in. The reason why I wanted to talk about '88 is in our lifetime, there's always seminal moments in our life that we remember for the rest of our lives. So one Sunday afternoon when it was really sunny, about this time of the year, I was invited to sit with my friend Randy, who I knew was dying from AIDS. It was the last few hours of his life. And I was 37 at the time, and I had never been with a dying person. And so when I sat next to him, what I saw was a fellow with a fever who was really weak, didn't want to talk, and I didn't know what to do. So I just sat there, and I think I remember holding his hand a little bit. And the most extraordinary thing for me was being a bit slow and dozy. I didn't recognize when he actually died. Like, he died within about an hour or two after being with him. And so, like, a nurse came in and said, well, he's gone now. And I went, really? He's still warm. So, but at that moment I had this emotional reaction, and the emotional reaction was, you know, I've been complaining and bitching about my life for the last 15 years. I didn't like my job. I didn't like the social environment I was living in. And I said, you know, life is too short. You need to just get off the pot and get on and do the things that are important. So that began the process of, okay, what is that going to look like? The moment has come. And so what I decided was that I wanted to leave government administration because I wasn't a good bureaucrat, and I wanted to do something that was loving and of service. And the most profound thing is I wanted to come out of the closet because I was tired of hiding. And more profoundly, I've got to be careful that I don't cry. I'm supposed to save that to the end. I wanted to do something for the gay community, and so this was my moment. And so I met with a lovely woman who helped me figure out how to do that. And so I ended up a year later going to Wilfrid Laurier to do my degree in HIV work. Well, that was my choice at school, and so all of my course studies was around that. And I ended up writing my research project, which was about how gay couples were coping with a partner who had HIV and was living with AIDS. So I think, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts a wee bit. I think that's the picture I wanted to paint in the first segment. I'm going to pause and turn it back to Gordon and come back to the second sequence.
Now is the portion of the service for sharing our abundance. Go. Very good. And if I could have a couple of people to start the collection plates, please. Thank you. Thank you. As well as our time, we share our treasure here, and that is to help us grow more generous in spirit and in action. It's really important for our self-sustaining community, our beloved community, and its many ministries. We also make a commitment to the wider community. You could, start passing them. Thank you. This month, we are donating half of the cash collected to Child Haven International. It was founded, inspired by the ideals and philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi. Child Haven International was founded in 1985 by Ontario couple Bonnie and Fred Cappuccino, who are now in their 90s. Child Haven assists children and women in developing countries who need food, education, healthcare, shelter, and clothing, emotional and moral support. Child Haven has homes in India, one in Nepal, one in Tibet, and one in Bangladesh. Girls and boys are treated equally and without regard to race, caste, color, religion, or culture. And I don't think Marilyn Gay is here today. Oh, you are. Oh, there she is. I just wanted to mention that Marilyn volunteered for a few weeks, I think, at a Child Haven spot in, forget where exactly, but you can talk with Marilyn. but she had some really afterwards.
Okay. I stayed at the Savarsai home near Mumbai, and it was a wonderful experience. I was there as an intern, and I encourage anyone to sign on to spend weeks, months working with the children there.
Yeah. You can talk to Marilyn more about that after the service. You can visit the website to find out more about Child Haven and to donate further if you wish. And for now, please join in singing From You I Receive.
Thank you all for your generosity of spirit and action and volunteerism for this community as well. There are many ways that we contribute to this beloved community. We do have some slides. If we can have the first slide up as I introduce Guy back for our second section.
So when I reflect on those 20 years or so, one of the things I often say is that all of us were warriors, and the ones who took on the work were the ones who were courageous. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. It's incredibly rare for the Calgary Health Authority, that's what it was called at the time, to advertise a social work position nationally. Well, they had to do it for this one at their new HIV outpatient clinic because nobody wanted to do the work. Nobody within the hospital system, nobody in Alberta, and nobody in Western Canada. So they advertised for months and nobody applied for the job. And I was just graduating, and I phoned them up and said, well, I'm interested, and is there still time? Is there a cutoff? Blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, you're the first one. I went, really? But just to kind of continue painting a picture, in Calgary, there was only one dentist who provided dental care. There was only one obstetrician who was willing to deliver babies. There were only about 4 or 5 family doctors willing to accept their patients with HIV and AIDS. And some family doctors were actually asking their patients to leave the practice because they didn't want to do it. Now, I know there was a previous slide to this one. I'm not sure if it's easy to call it up or not. But my clarion call was the home care nurse who I had, when you're living with AIDS and HIV untreated, the last 2 years of your life are kind of challenging because you're losing a lot of weight, you have diarrhea, you need to be close to a toilet, you're cold, you have to take a lot of medicine, you're really tired, and you're not really hungry. So you need a real safe place to live, and there were no safe places for people to live in Calgary once they got to that point in the disease process. So I had taken one patient to meet a home care manager, and I said to her, look, we need to get some beds in extended care facilities so that people can just be safe, be cared for, and live the rest of their lives in peace. And she looked at me very sternly, got the finger out, and went, we are never going to admit your kind in our facilities. And I just went, I'm going to take you on. And it took me 10 years, but we succeeded. So anyway, that's kind of what I meant by the warrior spirit. So now I'm going to try to go through some stories just to kind of talk about what individuals did in that environment of hatefulness that was all around us. And so the first story is about these little piggies, and I know the camera wants to zoom in this picture. You can look at it later. Basically, Loren was one of our patients, and he came to me and said, what can I do to support your work? I'd like to do something. And I looked at him and said, you know, every day people are coming to me with stuff that I can't do anything about. So examples are, my rent is in arrears and I owe 2 or 3 months worth of rent. Same thing with utilities. They're going to cut me off tomorrow. It's always tomorrow. I was always supposed to respond quickly. And I said to him, you know, the social services system doesn't respond to those kinds of needs. They're not interested. Plus, it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get into the office. So, like, forget it. You're going to be on the street. So he and a group of his friends organized a campaign that ran for 10 years. We sold these little pigs. There were 300 of them about sold every year. People were basically asked just to fill them with their spare change. Every pig generated about $30. We had a roundup party, and at the roundup party there was, of course, a silent auction and people did things. But the miracle of that, over a 10-year period, they raised $500,000 that created an endowment that's 30 years later is still there, generating, I think, about $20,000 worth of interest every year, which is lots of money for us. There are now 3 social workers that replaced me afterwards, but the caseload is higher too, so it's not just about me. But, okay, so that's one really cool example of a whole bunch of people who felt powerless and didn't know what to do, but bought their pigs, stuffed them, and helped feed that money. The next one that I want to talk about is, and I had made reference that there was no place to go in those last 2 years of your life if you were living with AIDS. And this was the era when doctors didn't know much about what they were dealing with, and all they could take care of is symptoms. So another group of gay men got together and said, okay, we're going to fix this. We're going to create a couple of, I don't want to call them hospices because they're more than that. They basically created a gay extended care network and had room for about 12 people. And the folks that worked there, it was a very clever arrangement. Home Care did all of the work and paid for it out of their budget. So all the gay community had to do was support the rental of the house. And with AISH and all of that, it worked. And it still works. It's still there. It's the only place in town. And it's a really interesting question to always ask ourselves. When we look at all the folks on the street right now living rough, we go, well, where do they go when they're sick and dying? They need a safe place. They need to be close to a bathroom. They need to be warm. Somebody just needs to give them love. And, you know, we still don't do that really well. Anyway, that was another example of a group of people doing stuff. Now, I think my brain is forgetting one thing, but I might not worry about it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it was just one other. Occasionally, people would ask me for extraordinary things. So once I had a phone call from a fellow stuck in Los Angeles. He had flown to Los Angeles to say goodbye to his friends, and he ran out of money and he couldn't do the return flight home. So he phones me on a Friday afternoon and says, I'm stuck at the airport, can you get me home? And I goes, oh sure, no problem. So I was fortunate that we had another patient who was a VP in an oil company, and I knew he had a lot of Aeroplan points, and I said, I need an air ticket, LA to Calgary. When? Now. So I gave him the details. In a couple of hours, we had the ticket. So that was another cool example of people coming together to help each other out. That was basically what that story was about. I'm wanting to segue to the next group. So basically, my career cared for three groups of people. There were men who had sex with men for the first chunk. The middle chunk was folks who were sharing needles on the street. And the third chunk was me dealing with pregnant women from sub-Saharan Africa. So as a gay man, it was really a learning at age 55 to learn how to take care of pregnant women. So for the folks sharing needles on the street, the one story that I wanted to share, and I had remembered it a minute ago, is... Yeah, and there was also, it was going to be an example of people in the community stepping up. So as AIDS was unfolding, people were softening and opening their hearts. So at one point, the Salvation Army, who generally speaking are not friends of the gay community, came to us and said, what could we do to help? And I said to them, look, we need a place for street people to live their last days. And it has to be beyond the hospice or palliative care model. Hospice care, typically, like the administrators will tell you, you can only stay here for 30 days. So you're expected to leave within that period of time. So that wasn't going to work because we needed a place that was going to last a good year and a half. So the Salvation Army converted a space and had room for about 6 people. And they received a whole bunch of our street people, and they were incredibly generous. One of the things they did was, even though they had a no smoking rule, they created a smoking room in the basement for the guy to go downstairs and smoke their hearts out all day long without anybody saying anything. And it was an incredible blessing. And the story that Roger was prompting me about, so it's another example of people stepping up unexpectedly. Another street fellow whose name was, I think I'm going to forget his name, so it's okay. He wanted to go say goodbye to his mama in Nova Scotia. And he asked me if I could get him a ticket from Calgary to Halifax return. I said, oh, sure, no problem. So I approached a drug company and said, look, I know every time you come to town you spend $2,000 to $3,000 on a dinner for the doctors. How about if you buy me an air ticket returned? And he did. It was really cool. I was totally amazed. So Rick went to Halifax on Air Canada and gave everybody on the plane a great delight. He was lots of fun. So I think I'm going to move to my favorite pregnant. Well, I have 2 pregnant women's stories. I'm supposed to be watching the clock, but I think I forgot to do that. Anyway, so Blandine and her husband approached me on a Friday afternoon with this message: I'm out of my meds, I'm due in 2 weeks, and we have no place to stay. And this was on the Friday of the middle of the Calgary Stampede. And I'm going, great. So I didn't know what to do. I remembered that the Palliser Hotel had a program for helping people. And so I called up the Palliser Hotel, talked to the manager and said, I need a room. And they said, okay. And they said, we have a room. And we said, well, it's going to be for a couple of weeks. They said, that's okay. I said, okay. And so they lived like kings and queens for the 3 weeks it took to finish the pregnancy. And then we needed a place for them to stay for a couple of months. Because even in a perfect world, it takes you 3 or 4 months to get into public housing. So I called up my buddies at the refugee center at Calgary, because I'd worked with them for 20 years, and said, I need a place to stay. And I know she doesn't technically qualify because she's beyond the 3 years. Like, every bureaucracy has their lovely rules. And she said, it doesn't matter, they can just come. So it was a lovely story. And then I think I have time to tell you my funny story, and then we're going to do 2 other little things. My funny story is that one Saturday morning I get a call from a nursing station, and they said, your mama needs a breast pump. And I'm going, okay, I'm a gay man, I don't know what a breast pump is. I thought it was some weird nipple thing that I had no idea. And I had to fess up and say, I don't know what that is. And she went, where have you been? I said, not with your group. So she explained to me what to do, what it looked like, how much it cost, where to get it. So I went and bought one. It was very cool. So anyway, that was me. I did, well, do I have time to say, how much time do I have? Well, so I also just wanted to have an acknowledgement of humility, because the other thing that I learned working with street people is all about addictions and people who are using, like taking MS-Contin by the mittful. With addictions, it's super hard. So it doesn't matter how much training you have and how much skill you have and how many gifts you have. None of us can help another person cure themselves or fix themselves. We really had to take the Serenity Prayer to heart. We could only do what we could do. We could walk with people, we could give them ideas, we could be supportive, but ultimately it was their work and their stuff. And you had to stand back and watch failures unfold, and you kind of had to love yourself and forgive yourself and said, well, I did everything I knew how to do, and I get it that it wasn't enough. It's not my fault. And it just is. It just is. So given all, like, I know you're hearing all the positive stories, I was trying to introduce the other side of the story. So the last story is, about 2 years before I was retiring, the hospital invited me, they begged me to come, because they had a fellow from Uganda who was profoundly sick, hadn't seen any doctors, so hadn't received any kind of HIV care, and he was refusing to talk to the doctors and refusing to talk to the nurses. And they said, well, maybe you can make some headway. So one of the greatest gifts a social worker has to offer in a hospital setting is you're one of the few people who has lots of time. Everyone else is busy. Like, the nurses are super busy, the doctors are really busy, and all the other tech guys are busy. So like, hospitals are all about, we're busy, get out of our way. So the first time I went to sit with this guy, I could see that he was really sick, he was very weak, and he absolutely refused to speak to me. And I'm sitting there in the chair, and his wife was there with him, and I'm thinking to myself, what do I do? like, if I say anything, I'm not sure he wants to hear it. I can tell he's really weak. Maybe I'm just wasting my time. So after an hour, I said to him, you know what? I'll come back in a couple of weeks, because I knew in a couple of weeks he was going to be a whole lot better, because the new drugs that they had at that moment in time worked really quickly and fast. And 2 weeks later, he was a whole lot better. But when I went to see him, he still didn't want to talk to me, and that was okay. But his wife invited me to come back. So a couple of weeks after that, I came back to see him. And then he opened up and told me his story. And the story was his shame about being infected and not being able to support his kids and his wife. And he also thought we were going to kill him. So, I mean, that's kind of a understandable thing when you don't know what the hell's going on. And so he did. So when I retired, we received this letter, and because we know I'm not going to be able to read beyond the first sentence, Roger's going to read the rest of the letter for you. And then I have the one final thing to say, and that's it.
21st of September 2007, so 1 month prior to his retirement. He had sent out a letter to his clients to let them know that he was retiring. And so this was the letter received by this man. It is so sad when you lose your best one by one. Guy, believe me when I read your letter, my warm tears dropped down, one following the other. Guy, let me take you back 2 years ago when I heard my illness. I can't get any word to describe my situation in that time. All my future dreams melt like snow, and the only things I could see was darkness and death. Also, I didn't have any idea about who has HIV could be surviving. I thought you guys were giving me anti-pain, and after a little while, I will be gone. So all that made my days worst. Guy, I can't hide one thing in that worst time. When I came to clinic, and when I see your warm words, kind heart, and hopeful ways, I was looking little light over my gloomy life. Trust me, Guy. That light grow up and I became trusting you guys. So I accepted my illness. I feel positive and happy. I have beautiful dreams now. That life boost I got from you. I am your hard-working result. You should be happy. For the rest of your life, I wish you the best things, and thank you for changing my life.
So it's a good thing I wasn't reading that. Anyway, thank you so much for that, and thank you for listening to me. The very final thing I just wanted to say is what Roger and I have decided to do in our preparation of a will for the great demise of us both. We decided that when our house is sold, a good chunk of the proceeds are going to go to a scholarship at Wilfrid Laurier, and it's going to be targeted at LGBTQ folk. And the students are going to be given this little card, and that's the printing on the card. Just like the invitation to them to always be of service and to do it with kindness and generosity. And, well, you could throw in the word humility as well. So thank you for having me and giving me this chance to speak. And I'll just show you this book because I brought it, but I didn't really talk about it. This was about the AIDS quilt that also started in 1988, ironically, and now is stored in a place safely in San Francisco. They now have the quilts of honoring 100,000 people. And what the quilts were about, every family or group of friends made a quilt in honor of usually a single person that they knew, and the quilts were about their life and their life story. And the quilt traveled across the US a couple of times, and it was in the summer of '88 that they stuck it in front of the White House so that Reagan could see it, to try to encourage him to learn a new vocabulary. But no. And I quickly read this last night, and I guess Hillary Clinton and Bill saw it about 10 years later. So it was the first time a US president acknowledged the fact that people in the US and the world were living with HIV. So I think I will step down and thank you.
Thank you so much, Guy and Roger. When Guy and I were talking about this service, Roger actually chimed in and said, you know, this is sounding like the Starfish thrower story. So I found a little video that I would like to offer you this morning, and we'll have the recording stopped if we may. I came across these words by Loren Eiseley, who writes, or asks the question, what is the spiritual message or the moral of the Starfish story? She writes, the deeper sympathy within the Starfish thrower story reveals itself not merely in the physical action, but in the spiritual resonance that envelops each throw of the starfish back into the sea. The young person embodies a beacon of compassion, imparts a wisdom that resonates through the ages. The significance of this tale doesn't merely lie in the surface ripples created by each starfish's return to its watery home. No, it resides in the immediate interplay between individual action and the cosmic interconnectivity that underlies our existence. At its core, the starfish parable is an ode to the power of a single act, the profound effect of one's intentions, and the recognition of the intrinsic worth of each life encountered on our journey. It invites us to look beyond the vast expanse of the metaphorical shoreline, beyond the seemingly insurmountable challenges, and to focus on the impact we can create with our immediate sphere. The cynic may raise the question, how can one person, amidst the vastness of this world, make a meaningful difference? Yet the soulful truth resounds. It matters not the breadth of the shoreline or the multitude of starfish strewn across it. What matters is the depth of our conviction and the intent beyond every action undertaken. In this simple yet profound act, there lies the spiritual lesson, an invitation to embrace our power of presence. Each starfish represents not just a life saved, but a testament to the potency of empathy, the resonance of kindness, and the transformational potential of our actions, no matter how seemingly insignificant they may appear in the grand tapestry of existence. Moreover, the starfish parable illuminates the innate potential within each of us to be agents of change. It is a reminder that in a world often overshadowed by enormity, our capacity to make a difference lies not in the scale of our actions, but in the sincerity of our intention and the depth of our compassion. Our next hymn is number 325, Love Makes a Bridge. If you are following along in the hymn book, we are singing only verses 1, 3, and 5. Again, the text will be coming up on the screens of those of you who are at home, online, and on the screen behind me. I invite you to rise as you are willing and able as we sing hymn number 325, verses 1, 2, 3, and 5. So I'd like you to take a moment to think about the starfish that you have metaphorically thrown back into the ocean. People in your lives that you have supported, loved. Maybe you've found yourself on the beach sometimes. We light candles on Sunday mornings to think about all the joys, concerns, sorrows, celebrations, some celebrations that are sometimes milestones in our lives, celebrated by others. And so we acknowledge these by lighting candles. For those of you who are online, I invite you to write your thoughts in the chat. There are 2 candle stations here in the sanctuary. If you have a thought, a prayer, a wish, something that's on your mind, on your heart, I invite you to come forward to light a candle now. These tiny lights represent joys, concerns, challenges, blessings, wishes, loves. But more importantly, these tiny lights represent the fact that we are not alone in this community. May they continue to shine brightly in our lives and those lives who we are thinking about at this time. We have a responsive reading for you. Again, the text will be coming up on the screen behind me. For those of you online, please join in this responsive reading. It's by Lorelei Greenwood-Jones. I'm in the italicized text this morning and invite you to read the bold font. We'll just take a moment until Marilyn is done. You got 10 candles? That is good. Marilyn's brought even more light into our community. All right. And so, let us begin. In this sacred place, we need not be alone. We seek a listening ear, a warm heart, open arms. In this sacred place, we join together against the waves of negativity and oppression in our world. We are a community of individual beings, living our own lives, yet coming together now and then in joyous celebration of spirit and one another. Our differences do not divide us, rather they are a source of interest and discovery. We need not think alike to love alike. Here, joys are shared and sorrows are comforted. We are seen and heard and believed. We are a gathering of like-hearted people, and here our hearts are filled. We hear the wisdom and counsel of our ministers and that of one another. We have much to learn from each other, so many different parts of truth and ways and methods. In this sacred place, may we find what our spirits desire and what our spirits need. May we be grounded in love and sharing. In this sacred place, may we find acceptance and consideration. May our actions and words echo what we learn here. Thank you all. Our next hymn is number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. Again, I invite you to rise in body and spirit as we sing together hymn number 354.
I'd like to invite Ruth back again to extinguish the chalice while I read these words from the late Pope Francis. Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you're happy, but much better when others are happy because of you. Thank you, Ruth.
Our closing words this morning are by Kathy A. Huff. Our time in this place may have ended, but our connection to each other and this community remains. Together, may we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, live the selfless deed, trod gently upon the earth, and fill the world with compassion. Until we meet again, blessed be. There are many people that make this service possible, and I'm very grateful to them all. Guy and Roger, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Robert and I have heard stories. There's even more stories. Yes, what a gift to have you both with us today. Thank you so much. Karen, thank you for playing. Doug for doing slides. Andrew and Declan and John up in the booth. Jeff, Gloria, hi you people. All of our tech team and volunteers, so grateful for everyone that helps make these services possible. And so, as is our tradition, let us rise in body and spirit as we sing our closing song. Link hands if you are willing to do so. And we will sing our closing song, Carry the Flame of Peace and Love, until we meet again.